It's an absolute pleasure to be here, and thank you very much indeed for joining us today. I have quite an interesting background for the CEO of a technology company. In fact, I might be the only person who's ever had this background for the CEO of a technology company. And it's in the background that you can see the foundations for what I eventually went on to do. So I'm going to share with you over the next 25 minutes the journey to, and indeed the destination, or if not the destination, certainly a point along the way where I am now, and indeed the destination where I see us and indeed the world going in the near future. So my journey really starts 1986 when I joined the military police, the RAF, as a guide dog mobility instructor, as a police dog handler. And then in 1996, I then joined Guide Dogs for the Blind with my skills from being a guide dog, of a dog trainer, to being a guide dog mobility instructor. So I trained for 3 years, became a guide dog mobility instructor, and became very excited about technology. But I'm just going to show you a little bit about the journey that I took to that stage first. So 1986, Gavin becomes a guide dog mobility instructor. This is a very different world to inhabit. I was shorts and t-shirt guy all of the time, and I was outside in the real world training people how to use guide dogs, discussing with them how to get the best from their dog. Maybe if it was a repeat dog, I was going out and actually then seeing how they worked in the environment and see how the environment interacted and how they interacted with the environment. We'll see here in this picture, I'm standing at a down curb at a pedestrian crossing, and I'm pointing out with my decent 6-foot arm spread that there is a massive distance between Murray on the left-hand side and the pedestrian crossing box. Now, a few of you will know about the tactile cone that's underneath the pedestrian crossing box, but as you can see from this position here, the idea of getting to that button in order to press it and indeed to hold on to that tactile cone, which revolves when the green man comes on, for Murray is incredibly difficult. In fact, if he sidesteps to his right, eventually he goes past the little studs that are on the ground to keep him straight. So as a mobility instructor, I think this was taken probably 2008, maybe 2009. As a mobility instructor, I'm looking at this and going, why have they placed the pole there? Why is the tactile cone so far away from my client who's arrived at the curb edge for it to actually be used by him? Why is it just can't be done? So I was thinking, there has to be a reason for this. There has to be a reason they've made a mistake. And eventually I was pushed towards coming up with a solution. But before that happened, back in 2003, 2004, people were turning up to train with their guide dogs, and they had Nokia N95 phones, which are the last good slide phones. It was a slide phone. And it had speech on it, and their phones were talking to them. Now, this is an iPhone XR, and this has got speech on it as standard. Every single phone has speech on it as standard, not Siri, but actually the ability for your phone to talk to you. And you could later on today go into settings, look at accessibility, and then turn on voiceover as an example. But I've got a triple tap on my home key, which turns on voiceover.
2 apps. Double tap to open.
So now I can use my phone.
Filter, docs filter, inclusion filter, utilities filter, online buying filter, home filter, 7 apps.
And my phone will constantly talk to me. Will also
language, headings, 7 selected characters, words, 7 selected characters, 7 characters.
Around.
Actions, language.
There we go.
English UK.
English Australia.
Now this is standard on every single phone. Every single phone you have in your hand right now will do that. And that was something I noticed back in 2006 when iPhones started using it. So my clients were turning up and using their phones, and it was doing all this kind of stuff. And I was thinking, well, how could I use technology to help me cross this road? So at that time, and some keen-eyed amongst you will have recognized I have a pedestrian crossing in my kitchen, I just invented the world's first smartphone operated pedestrian crossings. You stand next to the crossing, your phone presses the button. Your phone actually tells you when it's safe to cross the road as well, or rather when the traffic has been stopped. Doesn't necessarily mean it's safe. However, I did that while I was working for Guide Dogs for the Blind with some savings that I had. And that was a solution to the problem I had, but it was not the solution that I needed it to be because I had absolutely no understanding of business. By 2015, I realized the only way I could bring this into the real world was to actually leave guide dogs. So after 18 years, I left guide dogs. It was a real shame because it was a job that I absolutely loved. And obviously I rocked shorts and cheap sunglasses. So it was a challenge to actually leave that behind. However, I did. I then started looking at how technology could help in general. But of course, I had 18 years of understanding some of the challenges that disabled people had been living with. And I was thinking more about this every day and thinking, how could I use my knowledge of technology and my knowledge of the problems that people were facing to truly and really address the challenges they were living with? And after pressing the button at a pedestrian crossing, I realized I could press the button at anything, be it a door, an elevator, and I then became the first person to do those things as well. We haven't launched our first door yet, but with luck, we'll be launching it this year. But of course, if you've walked into a building by pressing the door with your phone, the building knows you've arrived. And if actually you could use geofencing and geo-referencing, then you could actually be able to do that. But one of the things that I realized was that many disabled people will walk into a shop and they won't be able to get customer service the way any other person might be able to get. This is Ken. Ken would walk into a shop, he's blind, he would stand there, he wouldn't get any service, he'd walk back out again. And that was a massive challenge. And it's a massive challenge not just for Ken, it's actually a massive challenge for all disabled people. 75% of disabled people have left a shop because of poor customer service. Now, you might think, well, that's really bad and somebody needs to fix that, but somebody really does need to fix that. The spending power of the 13.5 million disabled people in the UK alone is around about 270 billion pounds a year. Worldwide, it's something like 8 trillion, but in the UK alone, 274 billion pounds a year is referenced to people who are disabled. If 75% of them are leaving shops and businesses without spending money, or then having such a bad experience that they would never go back again, that particular business is losing a fortune. Now, why are they leaving the shop? The main reason for leaving the shop is because the person in the shop doesn't know how to interact with them. And the more I looked at that, the more I realized that this was a problem with the training of the staff. How much did the staff member retain if they had been trained at all? So I wanted to try and find a way to put the awareness of disability into the hands of the customer service team before the person walked through the door. Now, as a good example of why this is important, how it could really help. A few years ago, my washing machine broke down and I opened the door and water poured out and there was a seal breakage. And I just thought, oh my God, this is going to cost me a fortune. I need to get a plumber. I didn't get a plumber. I went onto Amazon. I ordered a new seal. Seal came through 3 days later. I looked at the washing machine and I went, well, I'm not a plumber. How do I fix the seal? I'm not very good at all with my hands. So I was like, this is not a good situation. However, I just went onto YouTube and all the information I needed was there. Within 20 minutes, I had fitted the seal to the washing machine. That meant that the information I needed could be put into my hands when I opened up that location. And what I then did with Welcome, or what my now team did, my growing team, we found a way of connecting the phone directly to the customer service team so that before the disabled person walked through the door, the customer service team could get a notification of an imminent arrival and then access all the information they needed to serve that person. Remarkably, because that is just the simplest thing in the world, I know you're thinking that right now, nobody had ever done it before. We became the first company to provide customer service training and awareness by the proximity of the now empowered disabled person who was walking through the door. Now, the reason I tell you about my products is because this just sounds like he's talking about products. Well, no, this is about the 18 years I spent looking at the problems that disabled people had. I lived with them. I worked with them every single day. I saw the challenges they had. This was the most remarkable amount of market research that there could possibly be. I didn't come from another organization and go and do market research. I was in the organization where the issues and the challenges were happening. I've always said to people in the past, I said, if you want to know something, don't just ask the person, employ them. bring them into your company. If we look at the problems that disabled people have, it's something around about 50% of disabled people of working age, I think 18 and 55, are in employment. And that is a tiny proportion of the people that could be helping every single company about how they can provide and deliver better services in all sorts of different ways. So what I've done here is I have found a solution based on my experience of the problem. The actual solutions themselves are exactly what the people are needing because of my experience in delivering it. So just to let you know exactly why customer service wasn't working in the first place, it was because of this cycle, which we identified as a customer service complaint cycle. And you're going to recognize this as you're already looking through it. There's an incident, there's a complaint, there's an apology, there's staff training, there's a passage of time, there's an incident. And if you watch social media at all or read the news, you will see guide dog owner, not allowed access. Visually impaired person not allowed this. Wheelchair user told they can't come in. Person with stoma uses disabled toilet and gets accused of whatever. So you find that these things happen constantly and they just go round and round and round. When we can then interrupt this with the training aspect, when we can get in there and ensure the training is relevant to the moment that it is needed, we can totally change the demographic of this situation. Now, we launched Welcome, and indeed Button was launched earlier. Button is now in 2 entire towns in Scotland, Irvine and Largs. But Welcome, I need to skip a couple of pages here. This is the system working. Welcome was installed or is now installed in all of these different venues. We launched it in 2018. In fact, we've got about 20 more from here. Including, I think, Irish Rail are now part of our company. We've now got the NHS in Glasgow, Golden Jubilee. We've just launched with our first health centre down in Brighton. As I say, Irish Rail, we've got many charities all involved in this system. It is so easy to deliver better customer service. It was so easy to drive or take a train from one side of America to the other, but it was impossible to do that before somebody had invented it. And sometimes the invention starts with the person who truly understands the problem. If I have any recommendation to anybody watching this today, because ultimately this is about you doing what you do, not what I do. You're watching this to find out maybe how you could maybe improve what you do, is don't just think, right, I'll do it in my own little zone. Involve the people that you're actually providing the solution for. Bring them into your company, ask them questions, or be the person that's living with that problem yourself. If you do, you can change how we deliver services, and you can change how you can support the country in which we live. Now, just a quick word about the business model, because I think this is probably the secret to our success. We call this a win-win-win-win-win-win situation. Disabled person goes to business, gets better customer service. Business makes more money because person comes through the door. Customer service person gives better service, feels better about their job, increases the amount of time they work in customer service. Investor gets a return on my company because we are a for-profit company. My company improves as well, and generally society improves because the member of staff who learns how to interact with the person who's coming through the door also goes home and uses that knowledge in the rest of their life. We've actually got a new win, brand new today, is that we're just about to launch a partnership with one of the UK's largest charities because they recognize that this is how they can also get to their members. So that's it. That's what I do. That's my journey. That's how I got to where I am. I would recommend linking with me on LinkedIn. It's Gavin Neate on LinkedIn. I'd be more than happy to meet people there and to chat about my journey. It is the journey of somebody who came from a dog training background. So it's taken me some time to get to a stage where I have a company that I can talk about in this way. But I hope this has been useful. I hope there's something that you can take away from here. And I'm very happy to answer any questions.